Nick, welcome to the podcast. You've been a pioneer in the field of learning and development for decades, and you're now considered to be a true guru by some. What originally drew you to this field, and what keeps inspiring you today to still contribute in this area?
Yeah, so thanks, Derek, for the question. I'm delighted to be your guest today in this podcast. So let me share a couple of thoughts with the listeners today. Like many people, sometimes in life, actually, you don't always plan. I started with Siemens in the Netherlands. I was involved in software development, and pretty soon, actually, I became involved in training basically customers in how to use the software. And what I realized is that if you are a trainer, you do something that has an impact on people. And also, I really enjoyed actually spending time with different people from different organizations. So that's basically how I started actually. Now, what inspired me actually to continue in this field? So a couple of things. One is that what I have learned is that if you are involved in learning and development, in leadership development, you have an impact on individuals, leaders, professionals. That has an impact on their families. It also has an impact on teams and organizations. But also, what I think was so powerful is that when we develop people, it has an impact on society. Because people change, and what they do, how they look at, a lot of decisions they have to make for themselves, personally, professionally, has a tremendous impact. But also the field itself. This is a fascinating field, fueled by insights from development psychology, the neurosciences, human capital. So fascinating. And it also for myself, I'm consider myself a lifelong learner. I had my first degree in economics and business economics. And I took a number of classes in IT, so that's how I ended up in the software industry, basically. Then later on, I completed my master degree in organization sociology and psychology. Then halfway my career, I kept going in this field, so fascinating new things to learn. And I completed a PhD in human development. And actually, in 2023, at the end of 2023, I completed another master degree at INSEAD in Fontainebleau on psychodynamic psychology. That's basically what we know about the unconscious and subconscious about ourselves as professionals and leaders, and what's the impact on leadership. So I'm a lifelong learner. I love to learn, and also what I see that learning has a huge impact again, on individuals, on teams, and organizations and society.
Well, that sounds fascinating. We definitely need to plan a follow-up conversation on the unconscious because in the bookshelves behind me are numerous works of Freud and Jung dealing with the exact same topic. So
Yeah.
we have to follow up on that one day. I'll basically send a podcast with you with Murray Stein, who's a well-known Jungian analyst on, let's say, the application of psychotherapeutic theories and analytical psychology in the workplace. So I have to follow up. Hey, but what I admire about you, Nick, and what I was also curious about, you put learning and development on the map in consulting firms like Deloitte and McKinsey. And at the time when you joined them, they basically had a reputation from being focused on, hardwired strategy, hardwired implementation work. How did you demonstrate the value that L&D and development could add to these companies?
Yeah. At both firms, at Deloitte, I've been the global chief learning officer at my time when I lived in the United States and also partly in Europe, and also at McKinsey, I've been a partner and global chief learning officer. And I had a privilege actually to be in that role and to shape the overall, learning and development and leadership development agenda for both firms. What is key actually for any organization, and I've also been an advisor to over 100 clients around the world in learning and leadership development, is that you basically link all what you do in people development to business strategy. So that's kind of the big theme actually. So understanding what is the overall strategy of the firm, what does it mean actually if you want to execute the business strategy, and what are the implications for people capabilities that you need, and what are the gaps between what you have versus what you need. And then based on that, I have created curricula for
Yeah.
different segments of the workforce that help people to provide them with enabling expertise, with the right skills, but also with mindsets. Because Dirk, I always say leadership development programs are only successful if we can change people's behaviors. It's wonderful if people gain insights, but if nothing happens, it has no impact. So really focusing on that. I also have been implementing in both firms and with clients a complete learning technology infrastructures, so that basically all employees, all professionals at Deloitte, at McKinsey, and other companies have access to learning at their fingertips. Very important. Um, as learning, it's also key to build a culture of continuous learning. And that means actually that leaders, every leader, that's based on all the research, has the biggest role when it comes to advancing the learning culture in an organization, by basically providing people with feedback, by being a role model for being a learner themselves, by coaching, mentoring people when it comes to their personal development, but also inspiring people to move out of their comfort zone, attend different leadership programs, learning programs, etc. And finally, of course, it's also about impact, linking learning interventions to business impact.
But one of the points that you highlighted, which I always admire, is you say, well, you need to kind of tie the learning program and your learning strategy to, let's say, the business strategy and business objectives, and you need to link the two. Can you perhaps give an example how that works in practice? I mean, for instance, two companies in the same sector who basically might apply different learning strategies because their strategic goals are different.
Yeah. Well, good question. Let me give you three examples, actually. I will give
Great.
you three examples of companies without mentioning them, but in different industries. So, as an example, a technology company, a big focus on innovation. If you think about what they do, big
Yeah.
focus on innovation, moving fast, changing on the fly. And that basically the learning strategy, the learning agenda for a company like that is all about agility. It's about cross-functional collaboration of teams, using methods like design thinking, and of course also the hard skills and the soft skills. Financial services, typically a big focus on compliance, operational excellence. And what you see actually is that the learning agenda will focus a lot on risk management, on regulation, and on lean operations. And a third, more recent example, a client that I've been working with, a pharmaceutical company. What's key for pharmaceutical companies is all about the research and the time to market of new medication. And they have embarked on a complete AI strategy for the entire company. So the learning agenda at this pharmaceutical company is all about how can we develop people in using AI and AI applications that will support actually their overall business strategy. So it shows actually there's no one size fits all. It's all about what's the overall business objective, the business strategy of the company, and how can you support that with the learning agenda.
Yeah, because another element you mentioned, and I think that ties in beautifully to my next question is how can you demonstrate a return on investment of learning and development strategies? I mean, in every organization I've been with, there's always what is the impact? Can you demonstrate the impact? And the holy grail seems to be we scored that multi-million-dollar order, and it would have never worked if we did not have that learning intervention. But what are the kind of, let's say, tools, instruments that you recommend learning and development organizations to use to demonstrate their value?
Yeah. Well, the first thing, Dirk, is all about making sure that you you define and align all learning interventions to business strategy. So, as an example, if you want to implement, let's take SAP globally, and all your employees need to use SAP, like, okay, that's a transformational initiative.
Yeah.
How do you make sure that you have to build the skills so people can use SAP successfully? So that's one key thing. Second, we can look at different leading indicators if learning is successful. It comes to people engagement. Have people the capabilities that they need actually to perform their role? But it's also about the adoption of learning. Are they participating in the different programs that are designed for them to develop their capabilities? And of course, there are also specific business KPIs. As an example, we can look at client retention, or are we able to be more successful in selling more what we do? Or from a risk management perspective, are we indeed managing risk in the best way? Now, when it comes to ROI, I have to admit that both at Deloitte and McKinsey, we do not believe in the pure financial ROI calculation. So what that means actually, we don't believe that you can say, if you participate in this learning intervention, there will be a 365% ROI. And why is that not possible? There are too many variables.
Absolutely, too many intervening variables.
Yeah, you only need one.
You can never create a lab situation while this sale, this learning intervention, with excluding all other factors. Yeah,
it's impossible.
Yeah.
But what we can show impact. That's what we measure in organizations. We can show that people are changing behaviors, and we can show if what we do in L&D is really aligned and prioritized by the business and by business leaders.
Yeah. Yeah, but what I found myself also quite effective was asking people afterwards, basically, for kind of testimonials, in a sense, either participants or their leaders, in a sense of, what have you learned, what has changed, what would you have never done, and sometimes these can be quite powerful qualitative examples as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's also one level of evaluation that most companies have in place. They check in with their employees, their leaders who have attended programs. What you said, Dirk, it's like, what did you learn? What has an impact on you? Will it change your mind? Will it change your behavior? They have an initial self-assessment on behavioral change. Yeah.
In my perception, learning and development has in recent years moved very much to what you could call the soft side, so focusing heavily on enhancing the soft skills of participants, but often more and more staying away from the actual content, so things like business strategy, financial management, technology, etc. I don't know, do you agree with this observation? And how do you see the right balance? Should L&D professionals also actively concern themselves with the content, with hard skills, or do you see more a role for them on the how do you say the soft skill side of the business? How do you see that balance?
Yeah, thanks. So basically, typically in the past, we always spoke about the soft skills and the hard skills.
Yeah.
Today, we use the term power skills for soft skills. And why power skills? Because the soft skills are not easy to develop. If I give someone a book on emotional intelligence, it's not like I read the book and guess what? My EQ is going up by 20%. The soft skills take longer to develop, our entire lives basically, but they are incredibly important. And I have to say, even moving forward, this is a discussion I'm having with many leaders and executives and CHROs in organizations. In the age of AI, where we are still at the early beginning actually, it's very likely that work will change dramatically over the next couple of years. So the question is, what will AI, or I typically refer to it as the machine, what will the machine do moving forward? And then what will humans do moving forward? And there's no doubt that for humans, human skills will make us unique, will make us different. Gen AI cannot build high-performing teams. Gen AI cannot leading innovation and change. Only humans can do that. So that's why human skills become way more important. That doesn't mean actually that we don't have to develop the hard skills. Depending on what kind of industry you're in, what role you're in, there are still hard skills that matter. Like in a pharmaceutical company, you have medical doctors, they need to understand the science. In software companies, you have the coders, the programmers, they need to understand the software. If you are in a law firm, guess what? You need to understand law. So there's still hard skills actually, business acumen, tech fluency, etc. They still matter, and they are supplemented by the human skills. And one announcement I like to make actually, I'm collaborating with 5 other experts around the world on a new book actually that will be published in October this year. And the title is Leading with Human Skills, Thriving in the Age of AI. So in that book actually, we will talk about what are the human skills, why do they matter, but very important, how to develop them.
Yeah. And the timing is a little bit unfortunate, Nick, because I'm currently talking to a company about starting a project exactly in that area around August. So I don't know if it's possible to provide me with an early review copy. That would be highly appreciated. But thank you for sharing. Hey, you also advocate a strengths-based approach to L&D. So building on the strength of individuals rather than focusing primarily on their development areas. But how do you connect the idea of stimulating learning by encouraging people to step out of their comfort zones? Do you see a tension between building on strength and stepping outside someone's comfort zone, or do you see them complementary? How do you see that relationship?
Yeah, no, I think that they will reinforce each other. If we focus on leveraging our strength, that builds actually on our motivation and on our confidence. And the strength-based development approach is based on insights from positive psychology. Now, what we know as well is that we learn something new if we do something that we have never done before. That means actually we move outside of our comfort zone into our learning zone. But the learning zone can still be or tap on the strength that we have. So it's not like it's our weaknesses per se. So it can still be strength-based, or it can be skills that we are not aware that we might be strong in it actually. There are things that many people have never done before. And when they do it for the first time, they realize, well, it can be either or. I love it, it's exciting. Or
it's simply untested.
Yeah, untested. Yeah. Absolutely.
What's quite popular, let's say the last in the thinking, let's say the last 5-10 years, is generational differences between people in the workforce. Do you also believe that there are generational differences in the way people learn? And if so, what does this look like? And could you perhaps share an example on how different generations approach learning and how organizations can tailor their L&D strategies to meet that?
Yeah. I think there are some differences, and we have to be very careful as well. Of course, when we talk about Gen Z, that are basically the professionals born after 1995, they are all digital natives. They have grown up with a smartphone, with social media, checking out little videos in terms of how to do certain things. It's part of who they are, how they collaborate, how they work. So there's no doubt actually that their preference when it comes to learning on the one hand is learning at my fingertips, micro learning, very, very important for them. And what's also interesting is that it's not that they don't want to be in an in-person professional or leadership program. They value that tremendously. I'm teaching at master degree students, international students, and I asked them the question, if you had a choice, you could do this program completely online, or what you've now chosen to do it in person. What's your choice? And they say, we love to be in person. Yeah. And it also comes back to examples with Deloitte and McKinsey. And let me build on Deloitte a little bit. I was at Deloitte 2 weeks ago, outside of Paris, Texas, outside of Paris in Europe. And Deloitte has just opened a year ago their Deloitte University Europe, an extraordinary facility where professionals from Deloitte come to build their skills actually. They're all Gen Zs, a little bit older, and they love to come together because it's all about the networking, culture building, access to leaders. But it's also about reflection time away from the office. And we need to keep in mind that, particularly after COVID, a lot of people work virtually or part-time virtually. They are spending, 4, 5, 6, 8 hours a day online. And therefore, yes, they really appreciate digital learning, and they also value a lot being together in person. And I call it anchor moments for culture building when we bring people together. So, so that's kind of what I've seen based on research and insights, Dirk.
Yeah. In the last 20 to 25 years, because you're kind of nestor in this area, have you seen the role of learning and development and learning and development organizations, for instance, in large organizations? Have you seen that evolve? And if so, what are some of the moves that you've possibly seen?
Absolutely, absolutely. I always talk about the McKinsey approach, the from to. Huh? So what was 25 years ago and kind of where are we today, or where are we heading? One relates to the strategic role of L&D. Yeah? Basically from we are a training provider, we do training, to we are a strategic business partner. That's one lens. Another one is 25, 30 years ago, everything was in the classroom learning. Today, it's all about a complete learning ecosystem, including blended and digital academies, but also, again, facilities, high immersive, high impact facilities where skills can be developed. Another lens is focusing on content delivery to basically focus on capability building and cultural transformation. And my last lens I like to share is that basically moving from a top-down push strategy for learning to a more pull learning where the employee, the professional is in charge of her or his career. It's all about curation, personalized learning, data-driven learning, AI-enabled learning.
Yeah, and something which we used to call just-in-time learning. I basically get the skills when I need them and not when they're offered on the curriculum. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
And how do you expect, what in your perspective should a world-class L&D department look like in a large company at this day and age? How are they organized? What are they working on? And what kind of technologies would they be using?
Yeah. Well, first is learning needs to be completely embedded in the business strategy. I spent some time with a couple of CROs recently, and they said, also from an HR perspective, HR is not a function, HR is in the business. That's kind of a mindset. Second, when it comes to the L&D function, it's combining human-centered learning design with AI-enabled personalization. So you can provide people with learning at their fingertips so they can perform based on what they need to know. Another key element of a high impact learning function is they are using learning analytics, skill taxonomies. So understanding what are different skills and assessing on an ongoing basis what's the skill gap and how they can be closed. And also organizations, and particularly larger ones, who have capability academies.
Yeah.
Working a lot with ASML as an example, and
Yeah.
have all academies actually for different segments of the workforce. And last but not least, this goes back to the L&D function. In L&D, we have seen a development, a very positive development, where the LFE is elevating themselves as well as a function. More leadership skills for L&D professionals, deeper expertise in the discipline L&D, so that we can make the decisions and designing programs which are evidence-based. And also from a role perspective, we see that there are different kind of experts in the L&D function, like data scientists for measurement, behavioral scientists who can think about behavioral shifts that people need to make. But also people have a lens of designing an experience for people, so experience designers in the learning
Yeah.
function. So fascinating developments.
If we completely switch gears, you contribute a tremendous amount of thinking in the L&D space. So a lot of books that you've written are basically how to develop effective learning strategies, how to implement them, how to engage the business. Now, your latest book is the best version of me. So it almost seems like you switched from a kind of, meta level for the organization to, creating the best version of myself. Can you explain to us what this book is about and how it fits into your extensive body of work on L&D and leadership?
Yeah. So thanks, Dirk. So if we reflect on the future of work, it's basically people who are joining the workforce today, they will probably work for 45 to 50 years.
Yeah.
In many countries, retirement has been pushed out, and there are countries like Denmark, they expect that retirement will be 70, 72. So 45 to 50 years. If we think about a 55-year career, a lot of change will be ahead of us, and we need to become lifelong learners. That's one thing. Second, back to the best version of me, and I like to use the metaphor of the caterpillar here. As humans, we are all born as caterpillars. In potential, we have more than 80 billion neurons in our brain we can continue to learn in our entire life.
Yeah.
Also from a physical perspective, we are athletes by birth, actually. So physically, we can do extraordinary things. And therefore, in life, and this is more the philosophical side of it, in life as humans, we hope to become the best version of ourselves. And we can do that actually if we are focusing on our mind, our body, our purpose, but also on the environment that we are part of, our social environment, our work environment, the nature that has a huge impact on us as humans, but also the climate environment. And if we look at all these dimensions actually, and we work on them in life, we can become the best version of ourselves. And this book actually integrates different sciences, psychology, the neuroscience, and human development. And it's a fantastic book, and all the royalties are donated to a foundation for children, for e-learning for kids. So that's also wonderful. So you help yourself and you help children.
Yeah. Now, I can definitely testify that this is an extremely worthwhile book. So I'll basically put a link to the book in the show notes below. Nick, we touched on a number of elements around learning and development. during this interview. Are there any, let's say, areas, trends, or topics that we have not discussed, which you would like to bring to our attention?
Yeah, I think if we reflect on overall learning, this is not only about, it's a business imperative. And of course, in order to stay relevant, well, in order to have success as an organization, learning and development is key actually. But it's also a personal one. If we want to stay employable for 45 to 50 years, we only have one choice. It's continuing learning and
Yeah.
developing ourselves. But it also goes back to purpose. Through learning, as I mentioned, we have an opportunity to become the best version of ourselves. What's very exciting, actually. And finally, an advice I want to leave for everyone listening to the podcast. What's important is that we continue to embrace curiosity. And curiosity is all about asking questions, actually, like a little child, a 3-year-old. The why, the why, the why. But also key that we care for others in our organization, that we are part of, that we lead with humanity, and that as leaders, I always say, as leaders retire at one point in time, and you reflect on your legacy in life, in your career, it's not about an IT system that you implemented. It's not about you came up with a new org chart.
No,
It's,
it's not about
it's
breaking a stock price record.
absolutely
No, no.
nobody will remember you for that. But what people remember is how you have touched them, how
Yeah,
you have helped other people in their lives, in their careers.
yeah.
So leadership is all about helping other people to become the best version of yourself. And I think that's very exciting. It's very rewarding. So I hope that more and more leaders who are listening to this, they make it a priority in their career.
Well, thank you so much, Nick, for these beautiful last words and for this interview. I learned a lot from it, and I'm sure our listeners did as well. So thank you.
You're very welcome, Dirk. And for people, if they like to know more about a number of my publications, I'm publishing on a monthly basis new articles. They can be downloaded for free from my website, nickvandam.com.
Yeah, and I'll make sure to include that link in the show notes below, Nick. Super.
Yep. Thank you. It was a real pleasure, Dirk, to be with you today. And thank you for the insightful questions you asked me.
Thank you. Thank you for the compliment. See you.
Thank you.